काउंसिल ऑफ पीपल्स ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का पाकिस्तानी स्मॉल बिजनेसेस की बेहतरी के लिए सुनहरा कदम। बाइडन इंतजामिया की जानब से पाकिस्तानी निज़ाद टॉप पाकिस्तानी अमेरिकन डिप्लोमेट और स्मॉल बिजनेस एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन ऑफ यूएसए के डेप्टी एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर मिस्टर दिलावर सैयद का लिटिल पाकिस्तान का खसूसी दौरा और मुकामी ताजरों से मुलाकात। पाकिस्तानी बिजनेस ऑनर्स से मुलाकात के दौरान दिलावर सैयद का कहना था कि बाइडन इंतजामिया ने अमरीकी मईशत में अहम किरदार अदा करते हुए सिर्फ न्यूयॉर्क की बेहतरी के लिए $140 बिलियन और इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के लिए $30 बिलियन सिर्फ किया है। इस मौका पर उनके साथ SBS की कमिश्नर डेनेशल ग्रास भी मौजूद थीं। आइए देखते हैं एक एक्सक्लूसिव रिपोर्ट।
It was so important to see Director Dilaver Sayed to come here into our community from SBA because he is our highest ranking Pakistani working with the Biden administration. And he has shown us so much guidance today, and we look forward to the future and bringing more resources to the Pakistani community.
Thank you all for your partnership and making this meeting possible. I'll now pass it to our Commissioner for the city's Department of Small Business Services. We were here before a couple of years ago with another commissioner. We've had leadership change, and now Commissioner Dinashal Gross has taken over the city's department. So let me pass it to Commissioner Gross.
Thank you so much, Horace, and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for pulling this together so quickly. We're really pleased to be able to have this sit down today. I'm your neighbor. I live not far from here in Flatbush, Brooklyn. I'm in Prospect Lefferts Gardens, and as Commissioner for the city's Department of Small Business Services, I work to make sure the city's businesses have access to the tools that you need to thrive. So since the start of this mayoral administration, we've connected businesses to $265 million worth of affordable, responsible capital. We've saved businesses more than $36 million by helping cut the fines and fees. So anytime you are interacting with the regulatory state, we want to be sure that you do that effectively so you're not incurring costs. And we're also working on the policy side to reduce small business enforcement and increase small business support. We've sent our mobile outreach unit. Have you seen our big RV, Moby, out to the Maki Masjid? We've organized multiple workshops and sponsored the Little Pakistan street banners you see right here on Coney Island Avenue through some of our grants for community-based organizations. Pakistani American and Muslim American in Washington, D.C. He comes to this work after being the State Department's top commercial diplomat, advancing the interests of American companies, doing business abroad, and he has rich experiences also in the private sector, leading software and AI companies. His visit to communities in Brooklyn today really shows just how seriously the Biden-Harris administration takes the small business community and how seriously Deputy Administrator Dilwar Syed is about reaching immigrant and historically underserved communities. I think he's been in the Deep South recently in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene, visiting those communities as well. So without further ado, I'd like to invite him to say a few words.
Thank you so much, Commissioner, and thank you, Horace, and thank you all for taking the time on a Friday afternoon, beating traffic to come here, so I'm honored. I also feel like this is my community, and it feels, frankly, humbling to be here. Let me say a couple of things. One, I want to share with you what the administration's economic priorities have been as we almost start close to completing the 4-year in our first term, and what the impact is on small businesses. And then, of course, I want to hear from you because many of you are the heartbeat of economy, both in Brooklyn, but also in this diaspora community. When you look at the investments that the President and Vice President has made in our economy over the last 4 years, I can say this pretty safely, these are genuinely historic investments. Just the New York numbers are mind-boggling. $140 billion worth of private sector investment coming in to the state, in part because of incentives, direct investments, that we have made as part of administration. Another $30 billion to build public infrastructure, made possible by the bipartisan infrastructure law. You were pointing me to some streets that are being revamped and bridges that are being rebuilt, almost a century, right? Made possible by this bipartisan bill. Our perspective at the SBA, which is part of the federal cabinet, and we're responsible for small businesses, is that when you have this level of investment that goes into the economy, it also lifts small businesses. You now have to expand to serve more customers. On the tech side, more startups starts to emerge to support future industries, and that's exactly what we are seeing that's happening all over the country. In the state of New York, 1 million founders have started a business over the last 4 years. It's a record, 1 million. And now, I'm somebody who's been an entrepreneur. I know firsthand starting a business is only first step, right? You have to have resources, access to capital, access to support, advice, to be able to build a business, make it a viable business, and that's where SBA comes in. We have our local team here. Peter is joined here. He's part of a local team in New York City, and here to serve you. So part of the reason that I came here to Little Pakistan, I was earlier in other parts of the borough, is to make sure our local diaspora businesses are connected with SBA's local office. If you need support, access to funding, you know who to talk to. If you need access to federal government contracts, if you have a business that could serve the federal government contracting opportunities, we can explore that with you. And there are other resources, of course, working with the state government that we can open up for you. A couple of things I will tell you. I come from private sector. Two things that surprised me. One, just how much resource there is in government. At federal, and I may even say perhaps at local and state level. Second surprise, how little, unfortunately, our communities are aware. And many times our communities come from parts of the world where government was not for you. So this idea that there is a federal cabinet agency whose job it is to support small businesses, it is something many of you, if you didn't grow up in this country, wouldn't know. And we want to make sure that awareness gap is closed. That's where we show up, point resources. For too long, quite frankly, federal government resources have not gone into underserved communities. They have never even thought about asking government for support. Frankly, in our case, at SBA's case, it took COVID. It took a pandemic, once-in-a-century phenomena for small businesses all over the country, including in minority communities, to understand and appreciate that here's an SBA that can help you. During that time, by the way, I think hopefully we were able to support many of you. We served 11 million new small businesses. Almost every second or third restaurant all over the country, including in this part of the country, received SBA support and funding. And so we want to build on that relationship, make sure that as you look to expand your business, you know there's SBA loans that you could explore if there's a need for funding, but also for support and advice through our local office. So with that, let me close. And finally, just let me say one more time, it is an incredible pride to be a Pakistani American in the cabinet. Having spent time in working with the administration, what I can tell you is representation matters.